Alright everyone, welcome back to a brand new video. Hopefully, third time's a charm. I am not completely muted and just not prepared. But welcome to Resident Evil 4. This is one of the series' most beloved games. And you know what? I'd have to agree. I've played this game to death quite recently. I want to say like the beginning of the year I played it through again. And I must have played it about 7 times within the space of like a month. Just to get 100% and all the achievements and stuff like that. And it's fresh in my mind, so I'm going to talk about it now. A remake is supposed to be coming, and essentially what I want to do in this video is kind of go over why people love the game and why I love the game, and to try and build some more hype for that remake that's hopefully getting announced this year. Capcom are at E3 and the Summer Games Fest in June, so hopefully there is something there to be shown about this game. I have a couple of ideas of what they are going to show, and this is one of them, so hopefully, fingers crossed, this is there. So today, what we're going to do is, go over why I like it, why people like it, and just discuss it for a good 10-15 minutes, see what happens. But before the video just get started, I obviously do want to make a point of saying that my channel has kind of transitioned into a Resident Evil themed, survival horror themed channel, and that is how I intend to keep it for a long time. I'm not quitting Destiny, don't worry about that. It'll be probably more streams for that game from now on, because the videos I made more felt like I had to make them rather than what I wanted to make, and I thought about it for a long time, and these games are things that I love like a lot, and I have a lot of passion for the Resident Evil series, and any other game that kind of is similar to it, I'm always interested in as well. So playing them and talking about them and making videos on them is something I want to do, and it's something I enjoy. So at the end of the day, if I enjoy it, why wouldn't I do it? And like I said, I'm not quitting Destiny, so it's still going to be there. But for the most part, this is the focus from now on, and that's just how it's going to be. I'm not going to apologize for changing content all of a sudden. It's just I want to move on from Destiny and just doing Destiny all the time, and I want to start by just talking about and playing all of my favorite game series of all time. So that's where we're going to go. Anyway, without further ado, and that's out of the way, let's get started. Okay, so Resident Evil 4, the story is essentially set quite a while after the events of 2. You play as Leon, and he is now working directly for the president under like a protection service. The day before he starts his job, the president's daughter gets taken to a random village in Europe, of all places, same game. He's tasked to go and find her and find out who's taken her, and when you get there you find out that the whole village is overrun by an infection of a parasite called Las Plagas. Essentially what that is people are infected with like this little parasite inside them, and then the leader of this village, or cult you could say, Sadler, I want to say his name is, essentially can control those parasites, and his goal is to basically take Ashley, infect Ashley, send her back to the US, and have her infect everyone else, and then Sadler has control of the United States, which is obviously a big deal. So Leon is basically sent there to stop him from doing that, and to get Ashley back on his travels. However, though, he does get infected himself, and as it turns out, Ashley is infected too. So their goal changes from getting out to curing themselves, and then stopping Sadler from achieving his goals. So that's the rundown of the story, as brief as it can get. But now we should probably get into the gameplay, right? Let's talk about the gameplay. Okay, so Resident Evil 4 is a third-person game. It's one of the tank controls Resident Evil. Basically what that means is you can't move and shoot. You move, you stand still, you aim, you shoot. And anything comes towards you, you move, you aim, you shoot. And to be honest, I don't really see it as a big deal. Some people don't like this game and 5 and any of the other ones because of how they play in that situation. But you get used to it. Like I played this game through a lot in a small space of time, and by the time I was on like my second or third run, I was so used to it that it just felt like a third-person shooter to me. Like I was so used to just how it worked. And it's the same with 5. I played 5 not long after this because I kind of went on like a spree of playing through all of them in a row until Village came out, and then when I started on 5, I was kind of already just used to how this game worked. And then when I got to 6, which is already a nightmare in itself, It just obviously that has a more like a smooth third-person shooter type control, but at the same time, it just kind of felt like I've been playing it all along. So yes, the controls are quite a thing to get used to, but once you do, it's not really a big deal. Um, so yeah, obviously when you aim, you have a laser sight, and that kind of goes around the screen. You shoot wherever the point is. Fun fact about that: the first time I ever played Resident Evil 4 was on the Wii. So I just kind of thought that was how the game worked. I didn't know it actually controlled like this. I just thought, oh, okay, they've changed the controls for a Wii. No big deal, right? But on PlayStation not long after that, I'm like, oh, this is actually how the game plays. That's cool. I didn't really mind. Like, it wasn't really a big deal for me. At the end of the day, the game could play. The games could play like this nowadays, and I'd still play them. Like, Village could be a third-person tank control game, and I still like love it as much as I do. So, the controls don't really affect me in all in all honesty. Okay, so next up we have the inventory system in this game and how it works. If again you have played Village already and you haven't played 4 yet, which is kind of crazy to be honest, if that's the case, you have the attachment case. The attachment case carries your weapons, ammo, grenades, healing, and occasional items you find along the way, like you can hunt fish, and carry those and you sell those later to the merchant. The merchant is the most iconic character in this game. If you don't know who he is or what he looks like, then look it up. Because if you've seen the character but don't know where it's from, as soon as you see him, you'll know exactly who I'm talking about. But you can sell treasures that you find throughout the game. There's loads of treasures in this game you can find, and any fish that you manage to kill can also be sold for quite a lot of money. And there's eggs, certain types of eggs you can find as well. But anyway, the attachment case is something you can organise. You can make it look as messy or as good as you want. I always had the obsession with making everything look so neat. Like, the same ammo type is in a row. A healing was in a row. The grenades were in a row. The guns were lined up perfectly. Like, I spent so much time organising this. I swear I've played inventory management simulator in this game more than the actual game itself. But yeah, the attachment case is really good. Obviously, another thing the Village borrowed from 4 is you still have that kind of system, and the merchant system is basically the same thing. The thing with the attachment case in 4 and 8, sorry, the difference to the rest is key items don't go into it. They're in a separate menu, so they don't take up space. Obviously, in 7, you pick up a key item, it's in your inventory. You pick up a key item in 2, and 1, it's in your inventory. And obviously, those games have item boxes where 4 and 8 don't. So it's kind of a useful thing that they're separately listed, because you would run out of space quite often if that was the case. Alright, let's talk about the boss fights, shall we? The boss fights in Resident Evil games as a whole usually aren't all that big a deal. Obviously the enemies you are fighting that are the bosses is, but the fight itself usually isn't the most taxing thing ever. It all just depends on how well you've managed your inventory and your resources up until the fight, because if you have loads of ammo spare, it's going to be easy. If you have not a lot, and you're dependent on what's in the arena for you, because there's usually like ammo around the arenas in these types of games. But if you're dependent on the little amount you already have and the amount that is in the arena, it's going to be a bit more difficult. But most bosses in these games can be killed with a knife, so keep that in mind. There's always a way to kill them. But the boss fights in this game are really good. I quite like, personally, I like the one in the barn with like the village chief. I don't remember his name, but that's a really cool fight. It's basically 2 levels of the barn, and he turns into like this mutated monster that splits in half halfway through, and he's like swinging through the rafters with half of his body. It's really cool. And there is one, I think it's just before that, where you fight the El Gigante, which is like a giant ogre dude. And then about halfway through the fight, a dog comes in to distract him and help fight, which is really cool. And then obviously the final boss, which is Salazar. Salazar? No, that's not it, is it? Sadler. Salazar's from Pirates of the Caribbean, I swear to God. Yeah, Sadler. When he mutates, obviously you fight him on top of the construction site, and then in classic Resident Evil fashion, you kill him with one good shot from a rocket launcher, and he blows to pieces. The game's had a trend of doing that for ages, and I was kind of into it, to be honest. But the boss fights, obviously, Resident Evil boss fights aren't nothing to be kind of hyped about, but at the same time, they're usually quite cinematic, and they're usually quite intense, but in terms of difficulty, they're usually quite breezy, but the boss fights in this game are very, very good, and they're all kind of memorable, apart from like one or two. Like the fish, that ain't really nothing. Okay, and the last thing I kind of want to talk about is replayability in this game. The whole series is based off of replayability. You know, every game in the series is encouraged multiple playthroughs if you want to experience everything. With this game, it's no different. The amount of weapons you can find in this game, and obviously because of your inventory space, you're limited to quite a few, like a handful of weapons. You can kind of run through a few times with completely different loadouts after a certain point. Like as soon as you get to the merchant, you can kind of switch your loadout out completely, and you can go through with completely different weapons. And obviously, every weapon has a set amount of upgrades and attachments you can use on them, so they all get better over time and they all act quite differently. And obviously, you know, it's just a different handgun or a different shotgun or a different special weapon, but they all have different stats, so they all act different in a way. I remember my last playthrough, I used like the riot gun, the riot shotgun. That was a lot of fun. And again, with the extra difficulties, you know, you do the difficulties, you get different rewards. You get the parasite gun at the end of this, I think, for being at the highest difficulty, I want to say, which is essentially like a really high-tech looking gun that one-shots essentially everything in the game. So it's kind of a joke weapon, but it's still super fun to go through. And then you unlock a couple of alternate costumes, and then for different modes, after you've kind of like drained the single player mode for what it has, you have the Mercenaries mode, which was in 3 and they brought it back in 4, and people loved the 4 version. Essentially what Mercenaries is you play as any character from the game. I think Leon, Ada, Wesker are in this one, and a few others probably. And you're in the small arena. Certain parts of the game are basically turned into like small arena maps, and you try and get the best score you can in the time you're given. Obviously, the time can be increased by I think combos and killing things, and there's certain like things you can hit around the map that increase your time. That was introduced in 3, and it went through all of the games apart from 7, and then they brought it back in Village. It's a bit different in Village. People don't really think it's as good, but it's there. It is fun. It's still fun. The Village one is quite fun, but yeah, it's Mercenaries mode, and then there's 2 extra modes. One is the Ada campaign, essentially a campaign where basically you play through certain parts of the map where certain events happen in game, and you find out that she's the one that kind of caused it, and then you do what she did to cause that event. Like in this bit specifically, when the bell tower rings, the first mission for the Ada campaign is she's the one that did it to kind of like save Leon from the swarm of villagers that are attacking him. She's the one that rang the bell. And then there's an extra mission on the island at the end where you play as Ada again, and you go through the facility looking for virus samples and then extract at a certain point after you've collected them all. It's more of a mini game mode, but it's still super fun. So there's a lot more to do other than just playing through the campaign multiple times. And you know, obviously in Resident Evil games, you can challenge yourself. You can go through with, you know, no damage runs or knife only, and there's plenty of things you can do artificially to make the game harder for yourself and to kind of get more out of it than normal. And that's basically going to do it. That is basically all I want to say about 4. There's a lot more I could go into in detail, but that's a different time. And if anyone wants another video about 4, then by all means, let me know and I'll do one. I do want to play the game through on my channel again. Probably as a stream, but who knows? It could be a episodic thing, it could be like a jokey version of playing it through, or it could be a challenge run, because I do want to start doing those, because they seem really interesting. Never really got the balls to do one until now, but I'm down to do them. Obviously, this isn't things that count for achievements in games. Like, I'm still working on the Village of Shadows difficulty on Village and the melee only, but I'm talking like more specific ones that aren't just based off of achievements. But yeah, that's 4. 4 is a great game. People love the game, and if the remake is the thing that's happening, then that's going to be like such a cool thing as long as they do it properly. But that remains to be seen. So let me know your opinions on 4. If you think it's good, if you think it's bad, if you think different things are good about it than I do, then do let me know. And again, thank you for watching, and if you do want to see more Resident Evil content and some horror content on YouTube, then why not subscribe, because it's free after all. So I'll do it, and I'll see you all in the next one.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?